On this channel, $1 Million Made Easy, we love to run numbers for people. What we do is use the actual historical returns for the S&P 500 for the last 100 years. We project ahead what similar returns might do for you in the future. They won't be identical. This provides us with a possible range of what may happen in the future. As I say here, I'm not a financial advisor. I'm just a numbers guy, but I will run numbers for you. Just ask me to run the numbers in the comment section and I will. But please restrict requests to the following criteria. In this video, we're going to look at somebody that's in the accumulation stage. He's going to give me his beginning balance, his monthly contribution. He didn't say anything about increasing that each year, so we won't do that. And then how long he wants me to run it for. In this case, he wanted me to run it between 8 and 10 years, which can be a problem. Let me show you why, because it's really best if you have 25, 30 or more years. Let's go ahead and look at the scenario. He's got $50,000. He says he can contribute $500 a month. That's criteria 1 and criteria 2. He didn't ask to increase it all, so we won't do that. But I want you to notice over the last 100 years, during this 5-year period with these numbers, you would have put in $80,000, but there's a period where you only have $45,000 to show for it. That's actually 1928, which you can see right down here. When you add these 4 down years, he's putting in $500 a month, but he ends up with $45,506, which is right there. That's again the worst case scenario. But he's looking at 8 to 10 years. So the worst 8-year period in the last 100 years, you would have put in 98,000. You'd only have 80,425 to show for it. And the 10-year period, you would have put in 110,000 and only have 93,444 to show for it. Yeah, 99% of the time you would have gotten, in that 10-year period, you would have gotten to 100,000. 86% of the time you would have got to 150,000. That's color coded in blue. And 63% of the time, color coded in gold, you would have got to 200,000. Maybe a different way to look at this is right here. This shows how often you wouldn't even have your money back after these time periods, given what you put in the worst case scenario in the last 100 years. For example, after 8 years of what he's looking at, he would have put in this $98,000, but there's a period in there you would have only had $80,425, which is what we found right here, $80,425, even though he's putting in $98,000. The 10-year column would have put in $110,000, but you would have only had $93,444. So let's go ahead and look at this. I also include the 5th lowest and the 10th lowest, how many times I wouldn't even get back what you put. In other words, 95% of the time, you would be just fine in these first 7 years, getting more than what you actually put in. But there's actually 7 times where you wouldn't even get back what you put in. Excuse me, 5 times. Right here, put in 92,000, you would only have 83,000 to show for it. But he's talking about the 8 to 10-year period. So there is an 8-year period where you would have the lowest 5 would have 100,000, just a little bit more than what you put in. The 10th lowest, meaning 90% of the time you do better than this, but I just like to show the worst case scenarios here. Imagine a 10-year period where you put in, let's look at this 10-year period, you put in 110,000 and you only have 129,000 to show for it in the 5 worst cases. In the 10 worst case, you only have 138,000 to show for it. Here's the median. The median for this 10-year period, given this scenario, putting in $50,500 a month, the median would be 226,000. The maximum would be 459,000. So if he's looking at the 10-year period, he's probably going to have somewhere between this 93,000 and this 459,000. And there's 10 times that in the last 100 years, he just have 138,000 to show for it. There's 50 times, which is half the 100 times, 100 years, you'd have 226,000 to show for it. Again, putting in $110,000. But I really like to show people that when you're in it for just a short time, it doesn't have time to grow. Like if you stay with it for a long period of time, we go down through here and you can see just how much better off you're in. If you're in it for say 30 years, you would have put in 230,000. The worst case scenario, you'd have 1.544, a lot different than just breaking even or having less than what you put in. And the 5th lowest would be 1.644. 10th lowest, here's the median. Putting in these kind of numbers, you put in 230,000, but you have almost 10 times that amount. That's the median. It actually could have a maximum of 5.549 million. I really hesitate to run numbers for short periods of time simply because you can end up with less than what you put in a 10, 11, 12, 13-year period. In this case right here, you would have put in 128,000 and only have 123,000. Again, folks, this is the worst case scenario. With the 5 worst case scenarios, you'd still only have 158,000 to show for it, putting in 128. Imagine putting your money in and after 13 years later just having this amount. And the 10th, the worst 10% right here, you'd have 187, whereas the median have 329,000 and the maximum 773. So I just looked at it a couple different ways here. I just really hesitate to run it for such short periods of time because of that fact you can run into a bad decade like right here. You could have numbers like this right here where you actually end up with less money or barely even equal to the money you put after 10 years of watching your investments just go down, 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 up a little bit, and then down again. So you really have to be careful when you're running it for much less than like 25 or 30 years. You can be in at 25 or 30 years, that's when the numbers truly take off. But again, thanks for watching the channel. Please subscribe, share, comment, and like these videos, and come back often. I'll run numbers for you.